you in all the villages in this beautiful land of Guyana, in the Caribbean and further field. We welcome you. And we pray as we share on this program today, you will be blessed and your hearts and your lives will be touched. Invite someone. Stay tuned. God bless you.
As a nation, as a people, we need to agree on issues now more than ever because of the benefits that can be derived from agreement. Last week we posited that where there is agreement, there is power. And we need power because agreement generates strength. When people come together and they agree, they're strong. Agreement brings encouragement. It brings success and even defense, we noted. You see, in agreement, faith is added to faith. And so we are able to overcome our limitations, our weaknesses, because we have others to lean on. And we made mention of the fact that in this process of agreement, it is important for us to befriend one another. So friendship is critical. Humility, trust, priority, these are critical areas if we are going to actually attain agreement. And so this evening we want to examine the relationship with these areas that we've identified and how these areas can impact the kind of agreement that we need in our nation for the nation's advancement. Gentlemen.
At every level, family, community, nation, we have to once again explore the notion of agreement. My reflection tells me that we apparently have become specialists in divisiveness. Over the years, apparently we've used most of our creative energies to find ways to disagree rather than using our creative energies to identify and to move in the direction of agreement. An Old Testament prophet, Amos, said, King James Version says, can two walk together unless they agree? If there's going to be any forward movement, we need agreement. Amos 3:3 is begging us to come to agreement. And this is, for example, let's look at the agreement, and even though I don't think anyone signed the dotted line, let's look at the agreement. We are basking as a people in the success, the prosperity of our children. The children who wrote the CSEC in 2013. There, I want to suggest there was an agreement between that child, those children, their parents, their teachers, the schools, the government department responsible for creating the enabling environment, and the community at large. If we look at it carefully, we could see that all of those variables, they work together. And this thing cannot be done by one person. But when a village is determined, when a child determines, I'm going to shoot for this, A, B, C, and then the family said, we're going to support, the school is proud to say, we are going to create the environment. We would allow the necessary resources to be available. The community determined that they will allow the children to sleep when they should sleep and work when they work, so they take all the loud noise far away from those children, and they make sure that they're not interfered with. And then at the end of 1 year, several years of study, we all rejoice. And in some quarters, people wonder, how is it X can do so well? Just examine your environment. Just examine. You might have hard-working teachers working in your case. You might have different things going, but the environment is hostile. Is not conducive to study. I say hats off to those young people who have pressed through in spite of. We don't need to recognize them, and we need to have an agreement not to slow them down by now putting them in the same line with all the others. Those very special, proven children should be given an additional boost to develop themselves further. That's the power of agreement. Power of agreement. You know, we could have been like the rest of the Caribbean, but policy has allowed these children to be the best that they can be. But it mustn't stop at the CSEC level. We must allow them to be the best that they can be in the international economy. And because we are from a third world country, they may need additional assistance. We need to move them in the area of several scholarships for those well-deserving children. I'm talking about how many of them they did tremendous, no less than 5, 6. And let's move forward, see how we can benefit from the success of agreement.
I believe, indeed, the kind of success that we are seeing now is testament to the creative abilities that we have. You know, our children are accustomed to hearing teachers and parents and well-wishers say to them, think outside the box. And, you know, so many questions might be asked in terms of what they will do with all these subjects. But I believe it is an opportunity to build capacity as they continue to train deep and wide. They will be exposed. Some of them will become their own owners of business. And so that in itself, being exposed to the different areas, will help them to be sharp and on the cutting edge. So hats off again to those persons, those children who have done well.
I am sure that along this journey of success, there were several challenges. Several times, I am sure different things came up attempting to destroy the agreement that existed and the vision that was in mind. But it is clear as a result of the success that not one party, not one individual, but the people who were involved came together to ensure that the vision is achieved, that objective is accomplished. And I thought it is an excellent example coming out of our children for us as a nation, as a community, as a family, where as we go along the way, there will be several misunderstandings, several things that you don't quite agree, quite see eye to eye, but you just can't stop there because the goal has not been achieved. You just have to press for you to be able to get it.
You know, even clearly we would want to, well, the writing is on the wall that those persons, the players that we're talking about, obviously had the priorities in place. I'm sure persons spent sleepless nights trying to study. I'm sure teachers worked beyond the call of duty. I'm sure that teachers did not work from 9 to 3. I'm sure that parents made a contribution in whatever way, financial, even by just keeping the company of the children. And I'm sure that if they had to take a loan, you know, they would have taken a loan to buy books and to improve performance generally, whatever we would have, they would have needed. And I'm sure they would not have invested in something that is empty. And so at the end of the day, when you finish probably having fun, you still broke, busted, and disgusted. And the whole idea of having your priorities in place, you do a sequential ordering of the things, of the art of business, and that is so important, because when everybody would have gotten the priorities in place, obviously they will produce the kind of impact and effect that we so desire.
Well, we should encourage, therefore, if I can pick back on what you've said there, we should encourage folks and perhaps the financial institutions to create incentives and offer loans to eradicate the whole question of illiteracy, and to invest in literacy by offering loans to those who may not have the money to buy a book, may not have the resources at hand, and to make it possible, because that will not just, it's not something that will last for a moment, it is something that will not only improve that individual, but it will improve the family, it will improve the nation. And so that's a good area for us to encourage those who have that kind of ability to invest more in literacy, and by making finances available for young men and young women to invest in themselves and to improve themselves so they can be more marketable.
There's an excellent point there, Pastor. I think at times we stop, in his opening remarks, Pastor Hudson did mention in terms of advancement, how do we advance as a nation? And sometimes while we celebrate with these young people at this, what I call the preparatory stages of their development, we need to extend our policies. We need to look at incentive schemes where we can take them beyond this level here. We might celebrate, I think in fact we will, as being the top country in the Caribbean, but we shouldn't stop there. We should find ways where we can encourage these young people to move further, to probably to explore the opportunities of going to institutions of higher learning, not only in Guyana, in the Caribbean, even further afield, where they will be given an opportunity to expand their already known creative ability, so that they can return to this country and benefit this country, or even not this country, benefit the world, because we have seen demonstrated in their abilities already, that ability to perform at a higher level.
Well, let's follow that same thing. These young people, parents, teachers, their collaborative effort, they've shown us that it is a fantastic thing when two can agree.
Yeah.
They've demonstrated this. How can we move this from the education sector to, let's say, for example, the NDCs and even the nation? An NDC may have 100 miles of road in the community under their purview, under their management. And they're trying to repair all 100 miles every year. But somebody should wake up and say, that is impossible. Why don't they develop a program? A program where they come into partnership between themselves and the people who live in the community. We're going to take 10 miles a year, or we will take X miles, whatever it might be, and we will develop a good road over this period. However, when you do these things, it means that if you have a big truck with heavy weight, you will have to pay a penalty for using this road. You will have to pay an extra situation. So you will not destroy what all of us must use. Or we have to find a way, everybody, we have to become creative. Just as you could imagine, those young people are so creative that they could sit 20 subjects. The dexterity is unbelievable. Well, we could benefit from that kind of dexterity, that kind of creativity, and not only at the level of education, but at the level of running our community projects and the nation, we need the best to come forward to examine every initiative, and irrespective of partisanship, we must choose what is best for the future of our country, what is best for us now and the future. And so we have to be able to go beyond our partisan brinkmanship and invest in the nation.
Therefore, Bishop, for development to take place, there is need for partnership and relationships to be developed among the parties and the people who are involved. Lots of times I don't think we actually see it that way. And so I really love how you described it in the illustration that you have given. Because all sometimes we talk about is development. Sure, but for it to actually happen, there is a collaboration between the people who are involved that is necessary. And I think critical to that partnership is friendship. The ability for us to be able to become friends, at least to talk with each other, so that we'll be able to achieve this common objective.
You know, a few weeks ago we alluded to the concept of Agreement 101. And as we're talking about development, I know that from a local church perspective, we are embarking on a program. And I think of this program that we're embarking on, and I think of what is happening in the different communities, especially those communities that are up and coming. I really believe that it is essential for those that are governing to have an understanding that the citizens of the community have an important role to play in helping to bring development to the different communities. And as such, instead of just going in with a program, we need to engage the citizens of the communities and, have an understanding of what they are experiencing. And so we can work collaboratively together. We can work to bring the type of development that is needed. I think once there's an agreement, once we come into agreement, we will experience growth and success like never before.
But I must say I agree totally with that point that you just made. In addition, as we spoke about the case in point about the NDCs, I believe in addition to having the young minds coming together and working, I think one of the things that will help us is going back to those people, those senior men and women who are part of the community, who have the institutional knowledge and the experience working in the different areas in drainage and irrigation. And as we work together with the young minds, the people with institutional knowledge, I believe it will help to solve so many problems that we're facing at the community level and even at the country level.
Hinge on what you're saying is this whole the whole concept of the ability to reason, which is part of the process in terms of us reaching that stage or position of agreement. And even as you look around, you get the impression that people are not reasoning anymore. They're not following logic. You might have an idea, and it might be a great one, but at the end of the day, it might not be a reasonable one to move forward at this time. And so,
or it's not the only idea.
Right, it's not the only idea, and so. But because it's your idea, you keep pushing it, and before you know it, you end up with rebellion on your hands and so on. So it is so important that we are able to reason. Even when we look into families, and we have seen the kinds of abuse and killings and murders, lots of these social problems. These problems are as a result of people not being able to reason. People are not being rational anymore. So I think the time has come for persons to stop and to think and to look at consequences before they actually take a particular action.
I would like to concur with that statement, because the ability to reason shall be lost in your preconceived ideology. If you are called to a meeting or called to discussion, you can't go in with preconceived idea that you will not want to listen to the other party, there will be no consensus in behavior of that nature. What we need to do is mark all the valid points and then begin a rational discussion. And then you'll go and you have a way forward. And the whole country, the whole family will benefit. The whole institution, the whole organization will benefit, because each person is vital to the development of that structure of the nation.
You know, each one of us, let's say we have, how many of us on this panel? We all are standing before these cameras. We're standing in your home, wherever you're seeing us. And before we started this program, we all had our own individual presuppositions. That is normal and natural for humans. We don't draw a common line to say that everybody must say A, B, C, D. But we understand the objective that we are pursuing. We understand what we want to achieve. So using our own individual strengths, our own individual creativity, we may use different pathways. If there's one thing we agree on, is that we want to communicate values that would be uplifting, values that would make sense, values that will fit into your context, wherever you view this program from. And we know that you also have your presuppositions, but we are so confident in the soundness of our discussion, of our argument, that we are prepared to come and share with you nevertheless. And we have been doing this over the years. We don't force anyone and condemn anyone. We don't call anyone by different names, because we don't think that that is going to help the discussion, the dialogue. And what we're advocating is perhaps at the community level and at the national level. I know that people have their own presuppositions. It is normal, natural. But when we come to discuss the nation's business, the community's business, it requires of us a different animal who will sit. It requires of us men and women who will not be steeped in partisanship, but who will be consumed by a purpose and a vision that is deeper and that is higher. And therefore, in the face of all good sense, we must be prepared to surrender some of these presuppositions that we have. That when we sit together and we begin to reason, we don't judge a man based on the color of his skin, or as Martin Luther King Jr. said, we wouldn't judge someone because of their affiliation. Rather, we would listen to their ideas, and we will weigh their ideas for how it can contribute to the benefit of the nation. And perhaps if we could come out of this deep, dark hole that we're in and begin to evaluate objectively, irrespective, I'm saying, I admit that we all have our presuppositions, but when we come to sit, I'm challenging the good men and the good women amongst us to rise above the fray of partisanship, to rise above the fray. We're talking about agreement here, and begin to say, he has a point, she has a point. That's a noble point, and let's begin to move in that direction. You would make Amos proud.
Such a position creates we can see creativity and innovation when we would have adopted that posture. One person says the absence of conflict enables clear thinking, which is essential. Clear thinking, which is essential for the accomplishment of different tasks or for the improvement of the task. So the energy that we spend in conflict, this energy can now be challenged into a productive mode. So it is important what you're saying, that we develop an open mind and recognize that other persons, they have a contribution to make. And so when you look at people, you must not dismiss them and say that they have nothing really to bring to the table. And so that conflict there, it could be channeled for production and for productivity.
To the man or woman who feels that they have always been doing good, and it is time, I'm tired, I ain't able anymore, I read Galatians, never become weary in doing good. For if you faint not, you shall reap in good season. And so I pray that you will continue to do good. Continue to invest in partnership. Continue to seek agreement, because you will reap in due season.
Relational power might not be the most popular model of achieving stated objective. But there was a young man whose influence on the world is still very strong. His name is Jesus, the Christ. He used and modeled and demonstrated relational power in a way that he was prepared to forgive even those who did terrible things against him. If we are going to have an agreement, we cannot specialize in the past. There comes a time in everyone's life where we have to determine if we're going to go forward, if there's going to be agreement, there must be a period of forgiveness.
Yes.
Or else every time we are about to speak, we may not have anything current to use. We go into the past and we fish. It destroys reasonableness. We are challenging us. Find what is current, what is good, and let's agree in the words of Amos. Let's work together for the benefit of this nation. God bless you.
We thank you for being part of Choices. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly for any of our regular weekly services. I am Celicia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless.